And the first semi-final is done just like that. All out for 56, Afghanistan, overawed by the entire situation. This is the phone number that they have for their departure to Kabul airport. Because look at the scorecard: 029, 028, 8022. With, guess what? Who was the leading run getter? Extras with 13, and Asmatullah Omarzai with 10. That is the situation regarding Afghanistan. And South Africa, in the most dramatic and in the most brutal fashion, have ended their jinx of the semi-final. They are into
Yeah, I
their
mean, it's a
first.
big day for South Africa. Big day for South Africa. I mean, 1998, correct me if I'm wrong, was the last time they played a final of an ICC tournament. Since then, it's been semi-finals and bust. And now, as you said, in brutal fashion, they kind of ended that, jigs because again, everyone was thinking they'd be the favorites going into this match, but I don't think anyone was expecting them to do it in such a brutal manner, in such a dominant, clinical fashion. Afghanistan, sad to say, didn't look like they belonged on this stage, taking nothing away from the amazing run that they've had to the semis, but they looked overawed by the occasion. They looked a little intimidated, I dare say, by the South African pace bowling. And in the end, I think it's fair to say, as once Jen points out in the comments, that the better team won, both on the day as well as overall. If you're looking at it, it's hard to disagree with that assessment.
Yep. So South Africa have romped through to their first ever final in the 21st century in an ICC event. And because of this now, they are now one of the first teams to enter the final, having not lost a single game throughout. They had
Mm.
somehow managed to win the pressure situations during the league stages and even in the T20 Super 8 stages. But now, looking at the current situation, South Africa do look like the total package. Of course, one choke has been eliminated, the other choke could happen in a final, if you have to say. But Afghanistan, sure, they had a good run beating Australia, they beat New Zealand as well, they beat Bangladesh in the Super 8s. They came undone against India, but a fine show. But what happened today when it came to their batting, when it came to their batting, I think they missed. If you have to look at it, look, they missed the intent, or were they too drained? They were just too
I think
drained.
it may have been that, but I think see, drained every team that has played this tournament is, let's be fair. No team has, let's say, found it easy to deal with the kind of, schedule that has come about at this point in time. Now, I think where the major issue really comes about is, and this has been a problem with Afghanistan for some time, their top batters do tend to struggle against quality pace, and there was plenty of quality pace on offer in this particular game. You had Janssen and Rabada who set things up early nicely. Then you've got Nokia coming in after that. So it does, let's say, play on their minds. These were very helpful conditions also for Pacers. And I don't think that helped their cause in the slightest. So, all in all, definitely not a game to remember for them. But I think it also exposes the fact that this is an Afghanistan team that needs more seasoning in terms of, let's say, more, let's say, staying outdoors or playing there or playing in trickier conditions because they got all at sea. They're very good playing in slow, low, sluggish, wind-friendly conditions. Seaming conditions, on the other hand, even their top batters get found wanting, and that's exactly what happened.
Yep, and we are joined by Harshit as well. And Sri Citizen already has a comment for you, Harshit. Worried Harshit's final prediction could come true. South Africa versus England. One part has been done, and now England versus India, we await in the next 12 hours.
No, when I
Now,
joined, I heard what I sort of heard what Shane was saying, and perhaps maybe the occasion did get the better of Afghanistan there because this isn't an Afghanistan side that you saw this whole tournament. Today, the Afghanistan side, especially the batters, they showed up in a way that you least expected them to, and it's not the kind of batting. One thing that, by the way, doesn't surprise me about Afghanistan here is it's come down to bite them at the worst possible time. Is that you really throughout the course of the tournament didn't see a lot of contributions uh, from anyone barring the openers, And that's exactly what we feared. That if the openers don't fire, what about this team? If each of those crucial wins that they had against New Zealand, against Australia, they came at the back of their openers doing the job for them. Today, the openers didn't fire, and yet again, the same story all over again. No one else stepped up, and it's sad that a team that made it to the semi-finals exited the tournament in such a manner.
Yeah, I mean, it is for all that you have built up. This kind of an exhibition was a like, okay, the balloon's been burst. Afghanistan had beaten Australia in the most dramatic of manners. They had beaten New Zealand in a dominant fashion. They had beaten Bangladesh as well. They lost in a very similar way to the West Indies also. And if memory serves me right, it was at this same venue when it happened, when West Indies were absolutely decimating Afghanistan. So, against a quality pace attack, against a quality pace bowling lineup, and also the batting, as Shane pointed, even you pointed out, over reliance on the openers. It meant that, yes, Afghanistan were just on a prayer at this point. The bad 30 minutes happened, but before that bad 30 minutes could happen, look at it. Extras were the highest scorer in the T20 World Cup, the semi final. Mr. Extras. And the next one was 10 by Azmatullah Omarzai. That was how bad the batting was. So it is very, very important at this point in time to understand how would you remember the Afghanistan campaign? Is it a case of good performance, but will the semi-final embarrassment overshadow the entire thing? Because 56 all out, I could have understood it was 156 and then they would have made a fight out of it. But 56 all out, I think it overshadows everything what they had done until the Bangladesh game. How would
See,
you
For
I
look
think
sure.
at
it's unfair to say that it overshadowed because again, I think them reaching this far in itself is a bit of an overachievement. Let's be frank. I know people have been saying, and we do tend to agree with this assessment that they're probably the best or second best in Asia right now. But you also have to look at the broader picture. I don't think any one of us were expecting Afghanistan to be in this position simply because we expected that there would be other teams like a New Zealand who would be competing for it. The fact that New Zealand had an underwhelming tournament definitely helped Afghanistan, as did the fact that they got some pitches that were definitely playing to their strengths. But the second you don't get a pitch playing to their strengths, then they stop looking like an elite team. And there's nothing wrong with that. Afghanistan are very much a work in progress at the side. I mean, the fact that they can say listen, 10, 12 years or 15 years of us being, in and around the international scene and we're making a semi is very, very good progress. If we're there and thereabouts, I mean, they were one, as I keep saying, one free Glenn Maxwell knock away from making it to the semi-finals of the ODI World Cup as well. And those two were in conditions that did tend to favor them more often than not. So, in favorable conditions, his Afghanistan side is good. In not so favorable conditions, they do tend to, be found wanting at times. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think this is something that they learn on a lot more once they play more cricket in such conditions. These were pretty, must say, admittedly, not very T20-ish conditions. You have to also keep that in mind. And South Africa, I think, definitely got the better end of the stick. Good toss to lose for them because Afghanistan chose to bat. But it turned out to be a very bad decision given the kind of conditions on offer. And for South Africa, they knew no matter what rate they chased it at, they were up against a depleted bowling side who only had 50 runs to defend. So yeah, it's a bad loss for sure. It's historically bad as far as score lines and everything go. But I don't think it should take away from how it is Afghanistan have done in this tournament. For them making the semis in itself, massive overachievement, and it's only onwards and upwards from this point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tempted to say that, okay, perhaps Afghanistan are like that. Okay, but barring their two performances that they had, outstanding performances versus Australia and New Zealand, they were dominant. The win was New Zealand in particular was dominant. And if you look at the Australia game, they benefited from two things. One, Australia dropping catches was the main factor, and plus some tactical decision blunders that they made. And Afghanistan were the better side on that day. But I think in the semi final, when you look at it, it needs big game experience. And South Africa have had that big game experience on the negative side of it for most part of the 32 years that they have been in cricket ever
Oh
since
yeah.
Neil. Now, the clinical nature of South Africa. I think this, you may say, was the first clinical win that they have had in this T20 World Cup, because all
Yeah.
the other games have been pretty closely fought encounters. So you're on mute, Harshit.
You're right, Siddharth, because the other wins that I can recall, the England match, we saw how close that one ran. Then the Nepal match was down to one run. So yeah, they've definitely had closer matches in this tournament. And this, see, nothing comes as fitting as this particular match, and and 90% of the job, in fact, maybe 98% of the job, I would say, was done by the bowlers. You really didn't have to do anything after that bowling performance. And Afghanistan, the way it was, the way it was that they batted, there was no way that it offered any hope. Uh, the India match, let's say the India Pakistan match, 119, and even then, I remember there was at one point when an Indian side, the win predictor, rather broadcaster, had showed that the Indian team had a winning chance of just about 8%. It boiled down to even five at one point.
Yep.
But this Afghanistan side had no chance, if you ask me. At 50 odd that they got bowled out for 56. Uh, I think it was 99, 98% of the job done. This had to be some, not a minor but a major miracle had they gone on and saved these many runs.
Yeah, I mean, now, because see the nature of this, okay, South Africa, the decision that Afghanistan took, I think it was a blunder, but I think it was very good bowling, because on that pitch, if you look at it,
But
Brian
even then,
Lara.
Siddharth, 56 doesn't justify that batting at all.
Exactly. I mean, now it makes
Hmm.
that decision look horrible. Okay, number one. Number two, the South African bowlers were getting some movement earlier. And it wasn't very many people are saying that the pitch was bad for a semi-final. I don't think so, because there was early movement on offer, and it's a day-nighter in Charuba. And now I think even the lights were not on when the game was over, because the entire duration of this game has been exactly, if you look at it, 20.4 overs. So even the lights weren't on when the game finished. So that is why Afghanistan at this point will have only themselves to blame for the bad shot selection, the dream bowling that South Africa had finally clicked. And because of that, even South Africa romped through to the target, 8.5, 60, meaning you had close to 9. You are scoring at close to 9, 8 runs an over. I think it was pretty good. Yeah, I mean, Padmesh, I'm just saying that the lights were on. It is just for a joke, my friend. The whole match didn't get over. Only 20.4 overs were bowled in the entire game. I mean, that is the situation. But yeah, it's a dampener, because you all expected a thriller, you expected this and everything. But the nature of the pitches in the West Indies have just been extreme. I mean, one match in where Charuba, you see 200, here you see 56. So I really don't understand what is the trend that we have to make out of it.
The
I
one
mean, maybe
question
there
that
is
I have,
no. No, anyway, Harshit,
yeah,
carry on.
yeah, I'm saying the one question that I have for the two of you, and then maybe we can look at what the thoughts of some of those who are joining us right now is, teams like Afghanistan, teams like the USA, USA getting to where they did was a massive overachievement. Afghanistan as well, not many thought they would be reaching the semi-finals. So just saying that the two teams which no one expected much out of, or had very limited expectations, they crashed out of the tournament the way that both of them did. USA, no wins in the Super Eights. Afghanistan, hammering like that too in the semi-final. Now, how does it leave the two teams? When you exit the tournament after having dreamt of unthinkable things, after having achieved what nobody thought was achievable, then when you crash out of the tournament, what does that and where does that more so leave you as a cricketing nation then?
I think, see,
Mixed.
what you'll have to do is look at it holistically. It has to be looked at in a holistic way. very easy to look at the semi-final and say, look, it's a brutal reality check that perhaps this team wasn't ready to be competing at the top levels, which it is. But we also have to remember that this was a cricket team that only started competing in ICC tournaments, correct me if I'm wrong, in 2010. So if from then onwards, 14 years later, if you've made genuinely enough tangible progress that you are making or able to make a semi-final, then that is pretty big. I mean, if you're looking at, and see the challenge for them now, they have to say is, look, we've done well now. How do we sustain it further? I mean, because let's be honest, even if Kenya made it to the semi-finals of the 2003 ODI World Cup, but the amount of chaos that has engulfed their cricketing system ensures that Kenya are no longer anything close to a competitive side. Now, for Afghanistan, the challenge would be just that. How do you sustain this and make tangible progress? You do not want to become a Bangladesh, whereby you've not made progress, you've not regressed, you've just kind of stayed. You've been median. You've just stayed there, and you're still playing the same cricket you played 20 years back, and nothing has really changed. You don't want to do that. That would be the challenge for Afghanistan. They have to look at it holistically. Bad semi, sure, but a very good tournament, one that I think even for their most hardcore of hardcore fans would have exceeded expectations.
For me, it's a mixed thing. Firstly, I had some strong views about the fact that, firstly, why are Afghanistan even playing cricket? Because the broader holistic picture is, what are they doing about their cricket development in the country? It's run by a Talib. It's run by the Taliban. It is a government that doesn't have a good record of human rights. And barring Australia, who have taken a strong stance on it, that they won't play bilaterals with it, and all the Afghan players are thumping their chests over it, they conveniently forget the fact that the condition of women, and that because there is no women cricketers in the country, there can't be a scope of women's cricketers in the country because of the government that is there. At this point in time, I had very strong objections that Afghanistan shouldn't be playing cricket. Because if you're doing this, then I think you're setting a bad precedent. But that is a different matter. If I have to look at this tournament, for me, two things stand out. One, the dominance that they showed against New Zealand, and second, their victory over Australia. I think you can take all of that and kind of come into the semi-final with a bit of a disappointment. You wanted a good show. You wanted the typical Afghan fighting spirit that went missing today. And now everything, the big boys can adjust to the travel schedule, the really tough adjustment to the situation and the conditions that is there. You can all do that. Afghanistan still have a long way to go in that particular respect. So that is why I would rate this tournament for them a B plus. As far as grading is concerned, I would rate it a B plus for them. Great moments, but on the whole holistic picture, I think there are issues which need to be addressed, and adjusting to the big tournament pressure. That is the key that they have to do, because 2026, India and Sri Lanka, where conditions will suit them. So that is why I think they can be really great in that sense. They can be a team that will do well in the future, and the core will remain the same. But whether they will adjust, South Africa took 32 years to break the jinx. Today, they have finally done it. And that is why B plus for me for South Africa, for Afghanistan in this tournament. So, if we have to look at it, I just want to address this one particular comment that has. But still, to be honest, we need to blame ICC. Afghanistan boys hardly had 1 hour sleep due to delay in travel to Trinidad. Oh, really, Padmesh? Are we now going to blame the ICC? Because if you have to look at it, every team, barring India and England, have had the worst of the scheduling. Australia finished a training game versus Afghanistan late in the night at 1 a.m. and they had to travel to St. Lucia for a day game. But India
Mhm.
won. So why should we blame the ICC for it, Parmesh? That is the reason. And that's why I've been saying the scheduling in this ICC T20 World Cup has been absolutely terrible. How can a match finish at 1 a.m. in the night and suddenly You play the day game against a team that you really want to push through to win. That's why this ICC T20 World Cup, whatever people may say, India may win the tournament, 11 years of jinx may be broken, but it's been a disaster when you have to look at the logistics, when you have to look at the scheduling. And you may have argued it, Harshit, that yes, it has been decided, it was decided, all this, but has it solved any team's issue? No. The amount of travel that's been there has been insane. And timing, lack of consistency in the timing is something that I've really got a
You,
problem.
you can add Sri Lanka to that list also, Siddharth.
I can't add because they are not even in the Super 8. If they were in the
Look,
Super 8,
I'm saying to begin with, even
yeah,
they face a lot of travel issues.
yes, they did, they
Yeah,
did,
there
they
was
did.
no consistency really. That was one of the issue. Certain teams were
Yeah,
traveling extra, certain were traveling not at all. And to be told, it was just in one big cluster. It was not very good.
Even
yeah.
even if you see, it's away from convention. The fact that the final of this year is taking place on a Saturday and not on a Sunday.
Mm.
Yeah, 7:30 p.m. that too, IST time, 7:30 p.m. Even earlier. So that is why. Is Aiden Markram, Austin Kuna saying, is Aiden Markram turning out to be one of the best T20 captains of all time?
Let him
Best
win
T.
a World Cup. I know he's won two SA20s, but let him win a World Cup. That being said, if you're judging purely on ability, yeah, I think Markram's probably one of the more underrated captains up there.
I mean, he's won them an ICC event. He's won them the SA. I mean,
Yeah, under 19.
the Under 19 World Cup in 2014 in the UAE, and on top of that, he's done well in as a captain. But in the IPL also, he blundered. He didn't have a good time. Had a wooden spoon finish. So that's why
Yeah.
Aiden Markram, I would say, wait. If he doesn't win the T20 World Cup, then what are you going to do? But if he wins it, I mean, it would be great if South Africa win it because they have endured hell for the past 20 years, ever since 1999, when that choker word became attached to them firmly like a leech. It's been sucking at them for a long, long time. And because of that, it's not a good sign. But now they are in the final. They have to now encounter another jinx. Can they overcome the final nerves? That's the thing. Jazz like saying 49 years later, South Africa finally make a World Cup final. 49 years later, meaning 1995, 1975. But in 1970, they weren't even in this frame. So that is, I don't know. I really have no idea what is. But
So
Ashish there is like saying England more favorites than India. Been there, done there. What do you think about the game? Just before we, what do you think?
Mm.
England more favorites than India?
I don't know. I think it's an even keel. I think it's even keel. It will really depend on the kind of conditions that you have. Because if you have more flatter pace friendly conditions, or flatter conditions specifically, then I think England would be slight favorites. If it is dodgy conditions, though, then I think India.
But I think the weather seems to have cleared out at this point in time. So
Mm.
that is the thing. Anshu Mishra is like saying, "Sir, this is South Africa's second one-sided win. They thrashed Sri Lanka brutally." No, I think they had lost 5 wickets. I think in the chase of
No,
77
they
odd.
no,
they
they
used
not 6 wickets.
17 odd overs to chase 77 odd runs.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
hardly a thrashing.
so that is
Hardly a
why
thrashing.
I am not going to count that as a one-sided win, my friend. It was quite
Mm.
if Sri Lanka had gotten 20, 30 runs more, they could have defended that total as well. So,
Mm.
okay, wait, I think this was already taken. Yeah. Bhavishnu Raghushankar is like saying India losing in semi-final would be better than going to final losing against South Africa. It will be even more embarrassing. Are you really sure about that, Bhavishnu?
But let's
Because
see.
South
Let's
Africa
see.
are a good team.
Let's comment on this after the India match is done.
Yeah, yeah,
Correct.
yeah. Let's do that. Yep. Then, okay. Sudhika Haku is saying it's 32 years since South Africa's debut. They reached the semis of that tournament and are robbed by that reduced over method. She means you mean the DLS method, which
The
unfortunately
DLS
only,
method back then. Hmm.
yeah, that was a rain rule back then. But yeah, 99,
Oh, yeah.
2000 was a joke, mathematical joke. You didn't know the par score. Other times you just were undone by some very, very good thing. Now, a football analogy has been given here. Mayank Madan is saying Afghanistan was able to do a Morocco here. Could India do an Argentina?
One hopes. One hopes.
Yeah. But then, yeah, I mean, you would want to give, I would say, could India do a Sri Lanka of 2014? Where no one expected them, but then they gave a fitting farewell to the likes of Mahela Chevardne and Kumar Sangakkara. Maybe for Rohit and maybe for Rocco. Did it happen? Maybe. So that is why. Nitin Chauhan is like saying when Virat in 2012, 2014, 2016, 2022, when India reached the final, तो अब कोई नहीं खेल रहा था ये वर्ल्ड कप बुरा चल गया तो क्या हुआ सर विराट के बारे में 4 लाइन we hope that he hits a 50 in the final
Four
but
क्या
he batted
8 lines, 8 lines when we do the preview for the India match.
yeah then Wilcom Ekanayake is like saying for T20s round robin is a must to pick the top 4 teams or one bad game or rain can ruin it. He believes that the original format where 6 teams
No,
are
I
in the
prefer this format. I prefer this format on this list. Super 8 makes things more unpredictable.
Yeah. So, okay, any other further? Piyush Nandre, Octopus Nandre is like saying, so RSA is my second favorite team. Even in ODI World Cup, I didn't go to India game, but watched RSA versus New Zealand game in stadium. And they totally dominated that game in both bat and ball. Oh, yeah. India versus RSA final. That's what Octopus Piyush has pointed it out. Do you think an India versus South Africa final is loading that? We will give you the answer at 7 o'clock when we are doing the live at this point in time about England versus India. And looking at the current situation, it is raining. It is expected to rain in Guyana at this point in time. Well, it's raining at the moment in Delhi NCR. Pouring rain for the past 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. So, yep, that is the situation there. So we hope that the rain stays away. Please, 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 let the rain stay away. Because we'll be doing an ODI system in a T20 because 4 hours, 10 minutes. And technically, if you look at it, the timing that was shared, I think 2:30 a.m. IST is the cutoff time for a 10-over game. If you can't get any more overs, then the game is called off and India will go through to the final because they finished higher in the group. But I think 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. there is rain. After that, there is no rain expected in Providence. So let's see how that pans out. So shall we call it a day, guys, and then join us for the India versus England semi-final. So yes, one semi-final done. South Africa are through. We await India versus England now. So thank you so much, folks. And Piyush Nandre, again, it's not a 5-over game in the semi-final. It's a 10-over game. You can check the video that we have done on Sports Today. So you check that out. So bye-bye from Harshit and Shane and me. Subscribe to Sports Today for all the latest news and analysis. Bye-bye.